Yo, what's up guys? Today I'm going to show you how to create a Plugg beat. And yeah, I'll just play it a bit for you. Alright, that's how it sounds. So I'll go over how I made the melody, the drums, and some like how I mix my beats. So to start off, we have the piano main melody. So I built it like this. So I'll explain. See how it hits here in the beginning on the the first bar, and before it hits the second bar, it hits again. You see? And this is a common occurrence in Plugg beats. Like over here, it repeats again, as you see here, hitting a little bit before the fourth bar, or like and then you can change it up as well. Like it doesn't, like you can add stuff other than that, of course. And then I've just copy pasted it over here, but I've changed a little bit of stuff so it doesn't sound the same and it has a nice finish. And what you can do if you're not sure where you want to place your notes, because you see I have different amounts of spaces between the notes, or maybe I don't. It's the same either way. If you don't know where to place your notes, you can always use a preset scale, or like just drag in this preset into here, and all the notes in that scale will light up. So don't worry if you're new to making beats or don't know music theory like that. So I will always build the bass first. So this is my bass part melody, which I build my other melody parts off of. It makes it easier for me to know where I want to place my other notes in my other melody parts. Because the difference here is everything is split by itself, you see. But if you would make a beat from the beginning without having it split, you would see the piano main part in the background when you're building a new melody part, so it's easier for you to know where to place your stuff. Then we have this flute. Or by the way, I'll just show you what, I used the piano and strings impurity for the first one. So this is the flute. Yeah, and it's just add a nice touch to the piano main melody. And as I said, you can build this off of the main. You usually don't have like a flute in Plugg always. You can use an oboe, or you can use other stuff like that. If you want to, though. It's like it adds a certain type of feeling to the beat. And then I have an arp. The most common used ARP in Plugg, for sure. It's the bell with harmonics, and I would usually disable the EG harmonics and just keep the breath bell. And I think I just built this kind of like off of the piano main melody when it was in the background, and like I muted every other melody except the ARP and the piano main to hear clearly where it sounds good with the ARP. But what you can do if you're not sure where you want to place your ARP, you can always go into like your piano main melody, copy paste it into the ARP, then remove and add notes and move around notes. Then you have like a nice bass if you don't know where to start. And you see how all these three melody parts take up a lot of space in the mix. It takes up a lot of room. So I can't add more melody parts, or yes I can, but I probably shouldn't add more parts that take up much space. So we have a little bit more light sounds now. Now I have a bell. Yeah, see? So it adds a character to the beat, but it doesn't take up as much space. I can't even talk. As the other ones. This is a vibra handbell. I don't know if I've showed the flute. It's a pan flute too in impurity. And yeah. Alright, now I have the lead, and what the lead is just, it's the same as the ARP, but you just remove the ARP sound and you keep the other one. And it sounds like this. Yep, and then you add the vox in the ending. I would always suggest adding, like, if you want a vox in your beat, I usually add it in the end because it's much easier to hear where it hits, where it should hit. Like, if I start making the melody with the vox, like, it doesn't make sense, because I'm not like building it off of something. And yeah, anyways, it sounds like this. So yeah, this is the vox in purity as well, synth vox. So yeah, I suggest add that in the end, because these notes hit where they hit because they match with the rest of the melodies. So for the drums, the clap is very simple, nothing special at all, just hitting at the regular spots. You know, all the way. Just add a clap that you like, and it sounds good. Then we have a snare, it's a little bit different. It works together with the clap, so it hits at, like, can you hear? So if the snare and the clap match, that's very good. And then you do this, you repeat it in the other part, and you can end it with something special if you want to. I decided to do it in this beat, but it's not necessary because you can complement it with other stuff. And the 808 usually takes up that space, for me at least, when I make my beat. So they interfere with each other sometimes, but in this specific beat it worked. Yeah, and then we have a shaker and a rim. They hit, let's see. Yeah, this one hits here, like the shaker, and you see the rim hits a little bit before. These two work together with the clap and everything. So yeah, very basic. These are just here to increase the flow of the beat. It sounds very I don't know how to. Yeah, it sounds weird, but if you listen together with the rest, you will hear. Yeah, you see the flow, yeah. And then you add chants, or I personally like chants, so I add them. So I have a heavy and a short chant. It sounds like this. And I add this as well in the end of making the drums, or before I decide to do the 808, because you will hear with this sound good. Like if you make this before, listen to this together. So if you used to imagine these chants weren't here, you wouldn't you would hear where to place them, where they would sound good. Of course, there's different combinations, but this I decided with this. And let's go over the hi-hat. So for the hi-hat, what I do with that, I always search for a good hi-hat first, because I think the hi-hat is very important to have it sounding good. So what I do, I drag in a hi-hat I think would fit. I right-click it and feel each 2 steps. So now it's very simple, but you will hear how it hits with the beat, if it sticks out too much, or And when I'm satisfied with a hi-hat, I'll go into the piano roll, and I'll just start removing specific notes, adding cutting notes. If you don't know how to do that, you can drag it out, and then you control mark it, and then depending on what you have selected here, let's say 2 step or half step, and then you do control U, and it cuts like that. So let's not do that. And yeah, then I basically copy paste it after the 5th bar, and I change up a little bit, and always add a crash in the beginning, just to introduce the new part, which is about to play. And then we have the 808. So the 808 sounds like this. So as you can see here, they're not the same at both parts. and I always max the velocity on the 808 because I want it to hit hard. And what I do with the 808 as well is I would listen to everything together, and I would place notes, like single notes like this, where it sounds like where the 808 would hit smoothly. And when I have like a basic pattern, it doesn't need to be anything crazy, just smooth, I'd go into the piano roll and make specific changes which gives the beat more character, like the 808 pattern more character, until you find what you like. And if you don't have an idea of like where your notes should be hitting, I'd always start in like the C and then move upwards. Like if you have an idea about what key your melody might be in together, like with all the parts, you can, like, if it sounds very bright, try with the bright notes a little bit. But you also need to have a good idea of what the root note of your 808 is. So I will actually show that now. Let's go into the mixing. So before I actually go in there, I want to do something here. So for all the melody parts you make, never mind. I'll go over that soon. But for the drums, for the clap, snare, shaker, rim, I usually don't do it with chants, and the hi-hat, I go in like this, I trim it, and then I normalize it. So this is actually a good example of where not to normalize it. You see it's smaller when it's normalized, then you don't want to normalize it, or it depends. I don't like it sounding lower, and it doesn't get distorted when it's not normalized. But usually, like this, it will be like this, you trim it and then you normalize it. And it usually gets louder when you normalize it, but for some specific sounds it gets quieter. Then I usually don't normalize them. And yeah, for the 808 it's a little bit more specific, and this would apply to the kick as well, most of it anyways. So don't normalize your 808, it will not sound good. Trim it, as I did with other stuff. What you can do as well, if you want your 808 hitting even more harder, is you press this little thing and then you can boost it a little bit and you will see the waveform change. Then you go to cut self. And then you go over here, drag everything down except this one. It does so the 808 doesn't continue playing when the note ends in the piano roll. And what you can do if you want to have like a kick hitting sound, but you don't want to add a kick, or it sounds stupid, but it's actually pretty cool. You can go here. I haven't done it with this specific beat, but you can use this AMT like that, and you can lower everything except for the decay, and then you drag it like kind of close like that, and this gives it a kick character to the 808. So it's basically as if you have a kick inside of the 808, like, while not adding a kick. And you can also as well add a kick and mix them together, but I usually do this sometimes because it's kind of interesting, I guess. And what you also need to do is you need to right click your 808, go into the audio editor, highlight everything, press this flag and detect pitch regions. Now you'll see your bass or like root key for the 808. So mine says C sharp 2. What that means, I'll use to go to C sharp in the C5 area and right click, so set it to the root note. Otherwise it might sound off. And yeah. Okay, now then for the actual mixing. So in the master, I always have an EQ. I sometimes also, take out a little bit of low end. Sometimes I increase the high end. But yeah, you can remove some low end if you want to, like just a little bit for the frequencies that a human you can't even hear those frequencies, as well with the high end. But I decided to put it like this. Yeah, it's actually a preset, this one. Yeah. I always have a through the soft clipper for the track not to clip. Now let's see. So for the melody parts, I had 6 melody parts, which is almost too much. And on 5 of them, I have a stereo enhancer. And on all of the else, I take out as much bass as possible until it's starting sounding bad. But then I leave a little bit more bass so it doesn't sound bad. You want to leave room for the 808 later. And then I have a through the stereo enhancer. This would be like here. Drag it all the way down to the right. This will make the sound very loud. But I usually do this to get a easier hearing, like where I actually want the volume to be at. So like, yeah, it just makes it more clear. And for the clap, snare, hi-hat, same thing. Same thing. Let's see. Where's the 808? Where's the 808? Here it is. So on the 808, I usually mix around the 700 hertz area. I give it up a little bit, or like I increase it. So yeah, my friend told me like kind of recently, like if you increase the 700 hertz area upwards, it sounds on some speakers like they're kind of shit, or like, you know, lower quality. The bass will be louder. And what I've noticed is like it kind of sounds louder if you increase this. It's not that weird, like it's kind of obvious, but yeah. And then I increased the around the 140 hertz area. I increased the bass as well, because this makes it hit even more hard. You can increase the sub bass as well if you want, but most of the times it will be sounding like it gets distorted. I'll also suggest like pressing this arrow and have heat map enabled. You will see where the most active frequencies are. You can add a fast distortion if you want to. I usually don't do this, but this mix would be like there. I would always drag the mix almost down somewhere over here. It just makes the 808 sound even more brutal if that's what you want. Always put a soft clipper at the end for the 808 not to peak, because it will if you don't have it. And then down here you can see I have put some to the left and some to the right. The clap and the 808 I always have on the right, because it just sounds better. I don't know how to explain this almost. I'd say if you put it to the left, it's like stereo separation. So what I notice is like when you drag it to the left, the sound gets more larger, or like louder almost. But when you drag it to the right, it feels like it is separated, or like by itself almost. Or never mind, it's like, I don't know, it's merged. I'm saying this and that, but you will have to just try it out for yourself, to be honest. It changes the sounds anyways, in a positive way, if you do it right. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for watching, and hope you learned something.